Alright guys, we had such a good conversation with Stephanie and Hunter on the podcast, which drops tomorrow on our YouTube and Spotify, that we didn't even have time to get to the fights that happened over the weekend. We're going to do a quick recap of the weekend today, and we'll do another video. Check that one out. It's going to drop right after this one. A little short video to break down the Who's Number One card that happened. So definitely check that one out, because there's a little bit of shame on you for Flow Grappling, in my opinion. So check it out. Let me know what you guys think, if you agree with what I'm saying. So we'll start off with the Jake Paul fight real quick. A little excited to hear about and see what was going to happen when we fought a real boxer. Now, side note, Mike Perry was the backup for this fight just because they've been having some trouble getting this fight put together. I would have much rather see Jake Paul fight Mike Perry. But that's me being an MMA fan and not a boxing fan. Going into this fight, I was certain that if it went to decision, it was going to be Jake Paul winning it. Like, that's what everyone behind the scenes has to want, right? The Jake Paul train to keep moving along. So anyways, going into the last round, it seemed like they made a point to say that there's a rematch clause built into the contract. So right away, I'm starting to think, well, maybe they're not just going to give it to Jake Paul. Like, what better than keeping the Jake Paul train rolling than to hype up a second fight with the guy who beat Jake Paul? And I didn't watch the fight very well. So if he really won, that's great. And if not, then it just kind of goes hand in hand with what I'm saying. And I guarantee if they get that rematch going, Jake Paul wins the rematch. Like, you think it's like a little dive that Jake Paul train is going down, but all it is built in to pump him right back up. And whether it's to go back into boxing more guys, or it's to go into the PFL and start the MMA thing he's talking about, either way. But, you know, excited to see what happens. You know, again, not a big Jake Paul fan and a boxing fan at all. The fight night card that happened over the weekend, it was supposed to be Spann versus Krylov. Krylov ends up getting injured like the day of or the morning of, so that fight's scrapped. Real bummer. And to have Brendan Allen versus Muniz step up to be the main event after scheduling to be the co-main, you know, honestly, I didn't care too much about it at that point. But Muniz is coming off like big submission wins, and he's great. He subbed Jacare, and if you don't know who that is, you know, you're probably not a jiu-jitsu fan, but, you know, world champion, ADCC. Yeah, I mean, the guy is like the who's who in the grappling world. A little bit older, and he was kind of past his prime now, but to get a sub over him, that's a big deal. So Brendan Allen comes in, subs him in the third round. Not to say Brendan Allen wasn't a great grappler himself, but it's just something I don't think a lot of people would have predicted. The biggest news of the fight card was Tatiana Suarez coming back after that 3 to 4 year long layoff. But she comes back and comes from 115 to 125, I believe. So it makes it a little bit easier on her transition back into MMA by not having to cut that extra weight. Montana De La Rosa, a good grappler in her own right, maybe not that Olympic caliber wrestling, but a good grappler. So to pair her up in the weight class that's above her normal one against a good grappler who's going to have a little bit more success nullifying that wrestling, like, that was really interesting to watch. She looked like she had a little bit of trouble with it in the first round as far as kind of getting takedowns, though did control it up against the fence and maybe got a little takedown, but couldn't do too much with it. As she ends up, you know, getting past that and getting the fight to the ground. I think rear naked chokes her. We'll hopefully get another name put into that 115 division, because it's just kind of cycling through the same girls right now. So excited to see where that goes. Lower on the prelims. Again, it wasn't the most stacked card. You know, there's cards out every weekend now, right? So, you know, and I'm still going to watch them all regardless, but, you know, to say they're watered down a little bit, it's kind of an understatement. So the biggest names on the undercard is probably Justin Levitz, who just came off of a loss against Paddy Pimblett, ended up getting twerked on. That's probably what he's remembered for now at this point. But hopefully it's kind of changing a little bit, because he ends up getting the win on Saturday. Ode Osborne was on the card. He ends up getting a decision win, I believe. And there was someone else lower on the card. I can't even remember who it was, though. Check out the Who's Number One breakdown if you're into jiu-jitsu. That should be right next to this video on YouTube. And yeah, thanks for watching, guys.